Hey, everybody. Good evening here. Jared Smith down in Charleston. We got Scotty Powell with us in Morganton, North Carolina, here to talk some Carolina weather. It's not like we haven't been doing a whole lot of that lately, that's for sure. We're quite a bit busy these days doing winter weather, and tonight is no exception. Scotty, a busy day coming up tomorrow for a lot of us, especially on this time. So for the folks who didn't get it last time, this past weekend, your time is now for some winter weather closer to the coast and everything like that. And we've been talking about that over the last few days. So, Scotty, it's gonna be a little quieter for you up there. That is for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks to be. I'm not going to say a non-event for us, but a fairly minor event compared to what happened on Sunday. But I can't rule out a few snow showers, snow flurries tomorrow. But like you said, the main attention is going to be on the South Carolina coastline, along with the North Carolina coastline, and kind of like the central areas of North and South Carolina. So y'all didn't get in on the action on Sunday, so we're going to let you have some of it tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take us through the advisories and some of the new winter weather alerts that are out, and kind of go over the situation we got right now, because we already have some winter weather happening in North Carolina, as a matter of fact. So put me in here, and so let's talk winter weather alerts. So we have plenty of winter weather alerts. We have winter storm warnings in the northeast quarter of North Carolina, southeast North Carolina into the parts of the Grand Strand. You're under an ice storm warning. And that's where we think that the worst of the icing is going to be. We're going to get to that in a minute. Winter weather advisories stretch from, let's say, the central Savannah River region, all the way from the Savannah River up through just east of Charlotte. You're missing out on this one this time, Charlotte. But it's going to go through places like Columbia, Florence, Fayetteville, all the way up 95 to and beyond the Virginia border. So that's our winter weather alerts, winter weather advisories, and ice storm warnings and winter storm warnings. Got the whole smorgasbord tonight. We've had a couple questions about what advisory means, and that is it's a common issue, unfortunately, that is something that the Weather Service is working on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my butt out of the frame here for a minute. Let's talk about winter weather watches, warnings, and advisories. So what does it mean? So a watch. Conditions are being monitored for the potential for winter weather. That was last night. That was what we were doing last night. We had winter storm watches all over the place. That was last night. Some places today were upgraded to an advisory. And so in the advisory area, we're expecting some minor impacts in the advisory area. There may be some slick roads, there may be some minor travel disruptions, and some, maybe even some isolated power outages. But we're not expecting a horribly bad event in the advisory area. And then in the warning area, this is where higher impacts are expected, more major impacts, potentially threatening life and property. This is where we're going to see the potential for ice accretions, 2 to 3/10 of an inch, power outages, and then the winds kick in, and we could see even more power outages. So that is kind of the breakdown there. A watch gets upgraded to an advisory or a warning. And that is the path that we take. So something there. And of course, the interesting thing is in a few years, there will be no more advisories. The Weather Service is actively working to remove them. So because of situations like we have some questions that we have dealt with tonight. So there you go. So let's talk about the situation real quick. And before we get into some more of the forecast, and here's where we're at right now. Clicking through. So I did a little hand analysis at about 8 o'clock. This is about an hour old now at this point, but you can see a cold front draping just off of the South Carolina coast now. Basically a little low pressure, a little wave of low pressure around the Georgia-South Carolina border, and then the cold front continues to trail southeast. The freezing air is lagging quite a bit behind it. You can see the 32-degree line in blue here. And behind that, that's where it's all freezing here. But in the middle here, you got 50s south, you got 40s midway, and then getting into the 30s as you get into North Carolina. And we can take another look at that using the let's take it over to the regional radar here, and you can see as we take a look at radar. You can see a couple snow reports. You can see some of that blue and some of that peach there. We'll be having some mixing maybe with some sleet going on. And so yes, we have 32 degrees at Halifax, at the Tri-County Airport there, Roxboro at 32, 34 at Durham, 34 at Raleigh, which is seeing a whole round of stuff right now with light rain and ice pellets and snow right there. So they're getting a whole mix right now. Fortunately, no freezing rain at this point. Asheboro seeing light rain. So there's your line. There's your line, Scotty. It's kind of our
Yeah. I was going to say, Jared, we had someone just tweet us, James Horton, who lives in Centerville, North Carolina, tweeting us some video of some snow falling there. That's in the Raleigh, close to the Raleigh area. So definitely
Cool.
got some ground truth, some video
Yep.
of some snowflakes falling.
Yeah, let's get that racked up at some point too. I think that would be cool to show, if at all possible. I know it's just been Scotty night, so we're kind of going back and forth here, and we see all your questions here, and we're gonna get to those very soon. So I'm trying to get through this a little fast. Further south, you get back into the 40s here. We have mostly rain. Again, the cold front is just about offshore now. In South Carolina, 55 at Johns Island, 53 at Charleston. Meanwhile, we get up to Florence, it's 45 in Columbia, 52 at the Southport Brunswick County Airport, and 50 at Wilmington. You get out to the Outer Banks, you're generally in the low to mid 40s there. So again, we're watching the snow line beginning to sag south, and that's, and we've had reports. Looks like we have a report here in chat where we have sleet mixing in Southwest Concord. Good to know. Thank you for your report. That is that is some interesting news there. And again, we're going to see some of this mix in overnight. Your winter weather basically has started in a good part of North Carolina. And again, we're going to see this sink south over time. Let's take a quick look at let's give the models a try. This is
you sure you want to do that?
Yeah, well, we gotta do something here. So I'm going to reset back to let me get the 3 kilometer NAM. Looks like we have a new run coming in, but I'm going to do my best to do what we can here. So here is so here's midnight. So this is what things could look like at midnight. And actually, let me see if I can do this one better here. Yes, there we go. So let's do the high res rapid refresh. Actually, this is going to do us a little bit better here as we go. So you can see the basically at initialization here it's 9 o'clock now. It looks pretty close to what we had on the radar. Actually, that looks pretty good. You have the basically the rain and snow line pretty much where you would expect it. Take some of these extra lines off of here too. You can see high pressure beginning to wedge down and move in from the west here. This little backdoor front, and this is what is going to this is what is going to drive that colder air further south. Move on in time here, get to about midnight. You see that rain and snow, that rain and ice pellet mix will expand eastward over time here, probably well into Raleigh. At Charlotte, you may not get out of it. You may get a little something. We'll see. Not sure about that. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but we'll find out. When we start getting later into the night, though, we start seeing more of the freezing rain profiles begin to show up. And one thing to note too is that I want to make sure that people know that this is not going to be like a constant precip event. You can see on this future cast here that actually it's pretty sparse right now. The future cast here is pretty sparse, and we're gonna have some periods where it's not going to be raining. We're gonna have some periods where there's not going to be some icing. But as we get into let's see here. Here's noon tomorrow. We start to see some of that freezing rain begin to shower up around Columbia, up into southeast North Carolina, where we expect the worst of the icing to be. Let's get to 4 o'clock. You can start to see that precip shield begin to expand. And again, this is the model's view. We'll see how this ultimately plays out tomorrow, but this seems to be pretty close to what is expected. Start to see over the ice storm warning area in particular, you really start to see that freezing rain kick in, and it kick in for several hours as well. And the other thing that you'll note is over time, you'll start to see this sink southward. Now, something that's been interesting on the high res rapid refresh, look at that, Scotty. That's not a bad little shield of snow, and we've been noticing back and forth.
I'm telling you, I would not be surprised at all if you wake up tomorrow or at some point tomorrow, there's a winter weather advisory extended further back to the west, include areas like Charlotte, maybe even into the Hickory area. We've been talking about this over and over and over. this is we say every winter storm is difficult to forecast in Carolina, and it is. It's hard to get everything together here, Jared. But with this storm, there's been so much back and forth in such a short amount of time. It's honestly, and I know we've seen your comments. I know you don't like it. It's now casting, but it honestly tomorrow is going to be now casting. Where does that front stall? Where does that low pressure form? How far inland does the warm nose get? Does it get there? Jared, we were talking earlier before we came on the show. Some of the models are saying it could be a little bit warmer than we thought it would be along the coastline. Some are saying it's not. So it's honestly going to become down to a now casting scenario. And these models continue to shift back to the west and back to the west. And so that's something we're going to have to watch. Don't be surprised tomorrow. I'm telling everyone, if you live in North and South Carolina, obviously if you're along the coast, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, up to Wilmington, Jacksonville, it solidly looks like you're going to get some ice at some point tomorrow. That's going to cause some disruptions. Once you get back towards Raleigh, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, it looks like we're going to see some snow there. The model trend today has been moving that snow a little bit more westward, back towards Charlotte, back towards Hickory. There's a band on some of these high-res models that are showing that's going to set up in the mountains and foothills. So if you live in Boone, Morganton, Asheville, down to Greenville, South Carolina, northern Greenville, upstate, you could see a little bit of snow as well. So don't let your guard down tomorrow. And Jared, the big thing about tomorrow is temperatures, because a lot of places are going to be below freezing all day long. So whatever does fall is going to cause issues on the roadways.
Yeah, absolutely. And this definitely goes for much of North Carolina into northern South Carolina as well. Now, an interesting trend also, Scotty, that we're seeing is that, as I mentioned before, the high-res rapid refresh is pretty warm. And you can see this is midnight on Saturday. If this model's correct, Charleston's still in the rain. We're still in liquid rain here. We'll see what happens. That is not the forecast. I'm gonna also make that abundantly clear. That is not the forecast. So we'll see what happens with that. As we go into time here, you can see that that mix move in here. But this is let's see, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 a.m. here. We have everything moving off of the offshore at that point. So again, we'll see what happens here. This is kind of interesting. It's going to certainly be interesting as far as again, where the nowcast comes in and how well it pans out.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I'm looking at some of the questions here, and we'll address some of your questions later on. But just this one popped up. Is there a chance with a stalled front that sometimes these things can throw surprises? And the answer is yes. Yeah, sometimes it can. The models are just guidance, guys. It's something that we look at. Jared and I look at as meteorologists and forecasters through in the weather service, on TV, private sector. We look at those models, but we also have to take into effect a lot of other things. That model is not the gospel. It's a big tool that we use to formulate a forecast, but we also have to look at other things. So we look at models for guidance, but it's not the forecast. And that's something we're going to have to watch. And we got a camera pulled up here, and you can see it's, I call that puking snow now. That's a lot of snow.
Yeah, that's puking snow. That's that is between Franklin and Suffolk, Virginia. So we're looking at a Virginia DOT cam here, and I mean that is absolutely in puking range, puking snow territory for sure. I don't know why I couldn't advance that there, and that is comporting well with what we're seeing on the guidance and in the forecast there. So again, this is the kind of ground truth that we need, right? And we're going to be asking y'all for ground truth tomorrow as well. So definitely want to get everybody kind of in that frame of mind. So let's go. Let's talk impacts here a little bit and let's talk about kind of where we're headed as far as the next little while. So bring my slides back up here and. So your winter storm severity index, this is a very useful tool. We've done a show on this in the Carolina Weather Group. Go back in our YouTube archives after this live and go watch it. It's very informative, and it gives emergency managers and the public a decent idea of where the worst of the weather is going to be set up. You'll note in South Carolina that we're expecting limited impacts. That's the gray, limited impacts. That's not, anything, there's going to be some issues, especially in bridges and overpasses, and we're going to get to that. But South Carolina generally okay. We're going to see more impacts though, getting into North Carolina, getting into maybe places like Wilmington, getting further north where we actually have a better shot at snow in northern North Carolina, and we're going to talk about that in a sec as well. And we have minor to moderate impacts expected on much of eastern North Carolina, east of 77 tomorrow. And so we're going to keep an eye on that closely and see, let's see what happens, as far as those impacts. But again, this is the kind of thing that we are certainly concerned about for tomorrow. So let's talk about those ice impacts real quick as I figure out how to use the keynote thing for the, seem to be terrible at this. So let's take a look at North Carolina first, and you can see that in the red area, the red from Elizabethtown up to Jacksonville, Beaufort, here, so where you see this red is anywhere that is between a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch of ice accretion. That is serious business. And with the winds that are expected in that area tomorrow, that's something that we're going to need to watch very closely. Again, this is where you have your ice storm warning set up. This is where we have the biggest concern for the potential for significant icing impacts. Many roads closed, bridges, overpasses, forget it. Power outages could be much more widespread here. So something to watch very closely. Getting into Fayetteville too. You guys, you're right in there in that 10th to 1/4 inch zone, and that could certainly be disruptive as well. Heading up very close, way up into the coastal plain here. Outer Banks are going to miss out on that, but certainly it's going to be an interesting scenario. We could even see some icing right in Wilmington proper here too. So that could be that could certainly be a very interesting thing. And then as you get further to the west, we see the ice amounts drop as that gets replaced by snow. And again, this is an earlier forecast. This may not take into account what we want to do with the models here in the next 12 hours. We got to see how that's going to shake out with the ground truth observations. But right now, we could see a glaze of ice in places like Raleigh, Rocky Mount, Sanford, up towards Rockingham here. So, and then maybe even a little bit of ice up towards Elizabeth City. So again, we're going to be watching that icing threat closely. In South Carolina, and that is not the way I wanted to go. In South Carolina, we are looking at the potential for some light to moderate icing, generally in Horry County, up to Florence and into Williamsburg County and the King Street area. Here we could see upwards of a 1/4 inch, maybe even a little bit more. We'll go into some deeper maps here in a second to go about that. Again, Horry County is under an ice storm warning. We have winter weather advisories. Basically everywhere else that's shaded in yellow here is under a winter weather advisory. Columbia, you're going to see about a glaze of ice, maybe just shy of a 1/10 here. Charleston area, again, when we get closer to the coast here, it gets a little bit more interesting as far as precipitation type issues, but we're still expecting a glaze of ice on elevated surfaces in the Charleston metro area all the way to the coast. We'll see how that plays out. Maybe 0.05 of an inch to 1/10 of an inch of ice in northern Berkeley County. Could see a little bit more in northern Berkeley County, based on maybe the residents' time of freezing rain, and if it can get started. There is a small risk for some freezing rain tomorrow morning in far northern Berkeley County, places like St. Stephen, Jamestown. We're going to be we're going to be watching that for tomorrow morning as well. Getting a little bit closer into the accumulations here. Again, let's go back to North Carolina real quick, and this is where we have we can point out some additional places. Jacksonville, New Bern. There was actually, if you look at Jacksonville here, they've got up to 3/4 of an inch of ice possible there.
Yeah. That's not fun at all. Jared, I've got something. Let me see if I pull this up while you're talking about. While you're talking about that, let me see if you guys can see. Can you see this?
Yeah, let me take you full here.
So this is a just a little handy graphic that I made up a couple of years ago about freezing rain. It kind of gives you the breakdowns here: glaze a 1/10 of an inch, low impacts, 1/10 to 2/10, moderate impacts. But once you get up to like what Jared was just showing you, 1/2 inch to even an inch of freezing rain, that's extreme impacts. Roadways impassable, tree power line failure, and massive power outages. So if you're in that ice storm warning, that winter storm warning, and you're anywhere between a quarter of an inch to an inch, expect to see widespread power outages, if not massive power outages, where Jared is highlighting that area with up to 3/4 of an inch of ice. So again, also slick travel and just a nasty day. So you do not want to be out on roadways, Jared. That's some scary figures there. Hopefully tonight we can see some of those numbers trend down a little bit.
Definitely. I mean, again, this is, places like Jacksonville, New Bern, Oriental, Morehead City, you could see up to a quarter inch of ice. Anything beyond a quarter of inch of ice, as Scotty just said, that's no good. That's going to make for a very rough day for tomorrow. So we'll go back a little bit further into the further west here into North Carolina real quick. And again, Rocky Mount, Wilson, generally along I-95 south of Rocky Mount. We're expecting maybe a glaze of ice, maybe up to 1/10 of an inch. Fayetteville, you could get close to that, between a 1/10 and a quarter of an inch of ice here. And again, we have that really scary area further to the southeast. But overall, the icing threat reduces significantly as you get further west of I-95 in particular. There, so that is good news. Let's take a closer look now at this is the Weather Service in Wilmington. This is their territory here. So again, places like Whitesville, Elizabethtown, you're going to be dealing with some decent icing here. Again, this is that point. This is that zone up to a 1/2 inch of ice accretion here. Whiteville, you may run into problems, and again, we could see up to a quarter of an inch of ice in Wilmington. This high icing area dips into interior Horry County across the South Carolina line. Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, you could see up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice. Georgetown, you could see up to a 1/10 of an inch of ice. You could see a quarter inch of ice up in Florence and Marion, Lumberton. So again, in those areas, we want people to be very cautious and ready to go in case of power outages and bad travel. And then finally, further south into the low country here, and getting into Georgia a little bit, generally very light ice accumulations across much of the area. Charleston, again, we're not expecting a whole heck of a lot. Do expect a glaze. We have a lot of bridges around here. So again, if you're in the Charleston area, I'm gonna advise you to just be cautious tomorrow as time goes on. Northern Berkeley County, I mentioned this before, and I know my hand is cutting off there because of the limitations of my green screen. But northern side of Lake Moultrie, we could see the potential for up to a little more than a 1/10 of an inch of ice. Again, all depends on how soon the onset is. There is a potential that it could set up tomorrow morning a little bit up there. So that's going to be a trend that we're going to want to watch closely. All right, let's get to the part that everybody likes. So let's talk snow. And again, the jackpot of snow is going to be in northeast North Carolina. And these numbers may actually be down a little bit. Rocky Mount, you could see 3 inches of snow. You could see up to 4 to 6 inches of snow further eastward, up towards the Virginia border here. Elizabeth City, you could see 1 to 2 inches of snow. That's the Weather Service forecast. Further towards the coast, obviously you're going to have less snow mixing in there, but you could see some snow to end the event. To end the freezing rain event in places like Elizabethtown and Rockingham, Beaufort, and Jacksonville. But overall, it looks like we are expecting, there's your jackpot of snow. Also interesting to note is that we do have a little area here where we might have an inch around Charlotte. So again, we have some folks in Charlotte who are watching us, and that's the Weather Service has a little bit there, so there could be a little bit something there. We have some questions in there, and I want to bring this up, and this is very important here, and I'm going to tell you why we use the numbers that we do. So, watching numbers everywhere, and so many numbers are different. Yep, everyone has got their own ideas on this, and that's true, and that's a thing that happens, and that's okay. But what we use on the Carolina Weather Group is the official National Weather Service forecast. This is the forecast that people make decisions off of. This is the forecast that your school systems are using to make decisions. This is the forecast your local governments are using to make decisions. So this is the forecast that we're going to encourage you to use in most cases. unless someone's completely off, but the Weather Service doesn't play that game. So yeah. So Scotty, you were you have that really interesting look on your face there. As though you've
I'm
seen
just
something that,
I'm watching the NAM continue to come in. I've seen some folks messaging here on our comments, and I've actually got a few folks on my inbox here, and there's like, you got to talk about the NAM and this westward expansion. And so I'm like, okay, I'll look at it at least. And
yeah.
the NAM is really doing something interesting there.
Yep.
We'll see. It's a trend. I'm not going to forecast it's
Mhm.
happening right now. I need to see a few more runs to
Yeah.
see if we really get that much snow west of Charlotte. But it is a trend, and it's something that we're going to have to watch and see. We'll get another run of the NAM in the next 3 or 4 hours or so. And then tomorrow morning we'll get another one. So we'll keep an eye on that. So to address all the folks who are asking, please talk about this northwest trend. Please talk about this northwest trend. Here's what I'm going to say about the northwest trend. It shouldn't surprise anybody when we get winter weather in the Carolinas. When we get a low pressure near or off the coast of the Carolinas, it always seems every storm we always see a little bit of that track back to the northwest. It's history. It's just data that we know that you can about count for a northwest trend. Sometimes it's a big trend, sometimes it's a small trend, but every mile to the west means every more mile further the snow threat could expand to the west as well. So it's there. We'll continue to monitor that. Talking to Jared, you were talking about the accumulation. Remember, folks, the Weather Service will update their grids every 6 hours. So we'll probably wake up to another set of graphics tomorrow morning around 5-6 o'clock in the morning from the overnight runs. And when you wake up and you see that, and you may see more snow or less snow for your area. This is a forecast is not a set. I don't know how to say this, Jared. Forecasts normally are not set in stone unless you just know it's going to be a sunny day. When you get storms like this, there's always going to be variations, and there's really no ever final call. It's just like, here's what we're coming to rest on for right now. So
Yeah.
we'll watch that trend. You know, I'm not going to say it is going to snow tomorrow in Charlotte and West, but I'm also say it's not going to snow and accumulate tomorrow west of Charlotte.
Yeah.
It's just, we're going to have to watch and see. Just like you guys in Charleston, you're expecting
Mhm.
freezing rain, but if the HRR is right and that warm marine layer kind of stays over you and keeps everything liquid rain,
Mhm.
it's just something that we're going to have to play by ear. It starts tomorrow morning, and we'll nowcast it. You know,
I'm glad you brought that up too, Scotty, because like there is a wild trend on the NAM and the herd to a certain extent here that I want to show you real quick, just to give you a general idea of the details that we deal with when forecasting these storms. And we'll get back to the snowfall talk here in a second. And I promise here in about 3 minutes we're going to get to your questions. I'm almost done. We're almost done bloviating here. I promise you we're going to get there. But let me take my future cast back up here real quick. And so something interesting here that, you know, all right, so this is let's see, this is 7 o'clock tomorrow. This is 7 o'clock tomorrow right here. This is Lake Marion. This is Lake Moultrie. The water temperatures are in the 50s. They're probably going to dip a little bit. They're probably going to get into the 40s by tomorrow, I suspect. But still drastically warmer than the freezing air that is surrounding it. Now, what's interesting here is that you'll also see I have the wind barbs up, and I have, and you'll see the winds out of the north and northeast, and you'll notice that there is a bit of a warm, almost like a lake effect warmth here, blowing off of Lake Moultrie southward. That's been an interesting wrinkle that the high resolution models are really only going to get you. It would not shock me if we had fewer ice accumulations in this corridor here. And that seems to be backed up fairly nicely, because when we turn the reflectivity fields on and we move ahead a little bit, you'll notice that you've got a little bit more rain in this area surrounded by freezing rain. Wrinkles, man. They're there. This is going to be one of those things that's going to be very difficult. Yeah, as I said, there's lots of different things to it. I'm not saying that this is, and again, we're not saying that this is the gospel. I'm not saying that this is going to be something that is absolutely going to happen, but it is a wrinkle, and it is certainly interesting that it's being modeled not only by the NAM 3 kilometer, but also by the high resolution rapid refresh. So there's a theme.
Jared, I'm looking at the NAM, and there's an option where you can see run to run temperature change,
Yeah.
and everything is trending a degree or two, especially along the coast, a degree or two warmer, and even in parts of central North Carolina, a degree or two warmer. So, just looking at the temperature aspect of
Mhm.
it, Myrtle Beach, up towards North Myrtle Beach, that's oh man, my mind's drawing a blank. Southport area,
Yeah.
that kind of coastline where there was a lot of ice earlier today. The temperature trend is right at 32. Now you're going to get ice at 32, but what happens is if you get a lot of heavy rain, some of that water is going to run off, and it won't all accrue as ice.
Right.
You'll have a glaze, you'll have a little buildup, but some of that will also run off. To get a real solid ice, you want that temperature like 30, 29, 30 degrees. A couple degrees below freezing, so all of it
Mhm.
will stick on contact, and some of
Yeah.
it doesn't run off. So
Yeah, and keep in mind too that any rain ahead of any icing is going to have impacts on pre-treatment of roads. So
yeah,
we want to be very careful about that as well. Scotty, I had a thought. I lost that thought. It was a good one. So I will remember it as soon as the show is over. But no, I mean, you're exactly there, and we gotta watch this run to run consistency very carefully over the next few days. We'll go back real quick. Let's finish talking snow, and then let's do some questions. So again, kind of zooming in on the bullseye a little bit here, Columbia, North Carolina, maybe 4 to 6 inches of snow based on the latest Weather Service forecast there. 4 inches in Williamston, 2 to 3 inches in Greenville, 2 to 3 inches in Belhaven, 1 to 2 inches in places like New Bern, Kenansville, Kinston. And again, this is the official National Weather Service forecast. So this is going to be very interesting. This is going to be an interesting thing. And if you're in South Carolina, I am sorry. There's just nothing I can do about this. Maybe a dusting across, the Midlands here into the PD a little bit, well inland of the coast. No snow in the Charleston metro area. The closest thing that we may see to snow in places like Georgetown and Myrtle Beach is maybe as the storm departs and we get a little bit more of that cold profile moving in. We may see a few flakes as the precipitation shuts off. A lot of dry air is going to punch in Saturday morning and shut off the precipitation. So yeah, we've, it's tricky.
it's a very tricky,
yeah,
very tricky forecast.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's Scotty, without further ado, I'm going to take a snow cam, and I'm just going to reconfigure our screens here a little bit. I'm going to put us all in a box, and you can watch it snow in Virginia, which is the closest I'm going to see to snow other than the Folly Beach camera, which is but yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's chat here. Scotty, is there anything that I see one right here that I want to talk about real quick here. So Jerry asks, the HRR is pushing ice down to the low country. It's warmer. Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. We had a big bust today. There was a big snowfall bust in the Washington, D.C. area because the models were too cold. So that's what's interesting about seeing this warming trend on the models, Scotty, is that the models were too cold. They got shut out today. They were expecting maybe an inch or two, but they got shut out. Areas further south. Big bust.
What's a little different about this setup than what we saw last weekend is last weekend we had a really dominant cold high pressure to our northeast that was really drilling in the CAD. This system is kind of cold air chasing the front, and it's not in the high pressure is not in that ideal location that you would want it to get a really solid winter weather event. It's a little bit more north than northeast. So that's something to watch a little bit as well. So it's definitely something to watch as the system goes through.
Yep. This is a cool geek question. I like this question a lot. And the energy off of the coast of Texas right now, I think that's a really interesting question. I'm reconfiguring my models here real quick so I can show you exactly what exactly what the thoughts are. And again, this is kind of a noisy field here, but I'll switch back to my future cast. Where did you go? There we go. So what I'm showing you here is very geeky. This is vorticity at 500 millibars. If you don't know what that means, it's a spin in the atmosphere. Where you see the hotter colors here, that's where you have more spin in the atmosphere. And you can see a little. This is the 18Z run of the GFS. This is actually that's 2 days from now. Let me back that out a little bit. Let me get to somewhere a little closer to reality here. So here's roughly now. And you can see there's a little bit, you can see there's a one also. Let me do the winds too. You can see there's a little bit of a streak here at 500 millibars. You see a little extra wind energy there coming off of Texas there. And as we move on in time, that wind energy kind of really starts to dig in. You can see there's your trough right here. This trough really begins to dig in, partially amplified by some of the energy down here. And again, we're not seeing necessarily too much phasing here, but of the energy sources. But I'll go back to vorticity, and you can see a big lobe of vorticity just kind of sets up here with that trough, and that is going to provide forcing for ascent. The lift that we need. It's going to provide the upper air support that we need for some precipitation. Again, this is not like last week where we had copious amounts of moisture moving in. That is a key difference here, but the dynamics are decent. And I think that this could be, and again, we'll see what happens as far as like how all of these things come together. Again, this is a hard thing to simulate, to put it mildly, but yeah, I there's a really cool question there. I enjoy talking about that stuff. So, glad you asked it. Thank you for that. Scotty, is there any questions in particular that you want to hit up?
Somebody was wanting to know where the camera is at. Suffolk is in Virginia, just outside of Virginia Beach. So that's just north of the North Carolina Virginia line.
Yeah. And let me maximize this real quick. See if I can't figure out. I don't know. It doesn't say necessarily what road this is, but you can see it's snowing pretty well. I mean, that's not too shabby there, up there in Suffolk. So, very, very cool.
Scrolling through some of these questions here.
Had more snow events already, and I've had 950 miles of the north and southern Maine. Why are you making me want to move south? Maine is a lot nicer in the summer.
Do they still have mosquitoes up there in Maine? Do you have mosquitoes up there in Maine in the summertime?
I'll tell you what. If you don't have mosquitoes, you are living
golden.
luxury.
That's right.
You are living life. Talking Monroe a little bit here. What are you guys thinking for Monroe, since the models have been moving east a little bit? And again, they're kind of moving all over the place too.
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you find yourself in Charlotte west to Interstate 77, don't be surprised if you see snow. Don't be surprised if you don't see snow. Be surprised if you pick up a quick half an inch, maybe an inch of snow. And don't be surprised if you see snow falling, but it doesn't really accumulate because it's a quick moving band. 77 west to the mountains is kind of like that little shaky zone. It could very well snow, and it could put down a quick inch, but it may not snow at all. It just depends on where that low pressure forms along the stalled front. And the further, if you're wanting snow, you want that low pressure to form a little bit closer to the coastline than what the models are projecting right now. So the NAM model may be onto something. We'll have to see if models after this, the GFS, the Euro, the HRR, more of the short range models, we'll kind of see what they're filling out as those suites of model data come in. So the NAM may be onto something, and it may be an outlier. We'll just have to kind of see what happens with this 0Z.
Yeah, and again, talking about these models again, we have noticed that they have been biased to the cold.
Yeah.
So that's what's interesting. Knowing that, and knowing that there was a big bust in the Mid-Atlantic today in the DC area because the models were too cold, is an interesting thing to calibrate on. And again, this helps us understand, like, okay, where is the good, where are things performing, where are they not? And I think that is going to be very interesting. We have a report of
Just
snow in North Raleigh.
That's good to know. I mean, I'm looking at the North Carolina State Climate Office temperatures right now.
Mhm.
If you're around the Raleigh area over to Greensboro, Winston-Salem, your temperatures are right at freezing. If you go just north of Raleigh up towards the Oxford area, up into Henderson, there along Interstate 85, you're already in the 20s up there. So, no, A, if it's snowing up there, it's probably going to start sticking. But B, any of this rainfall that we had earlier today will probably start to ice up some of those roads. Honestly, if you live anywhere north of Interstate 40 right now, just looking at the observations, all those temperatures are at or below freezing. So we're starting to see some concerns for roads starting to ice up. I know our good buddy Wes Grimes, who lives between Winston-Salem and Greensboro, reported snow earlier today and then earlier this evening, and then now he's kind of calling like misty drizzle. It's like freezing drizzle because his temperature is below freezing. So we
Yeah.
definitely can see that as well.
Yeah, I think I need to get the high resolution radar to show that specific mist there. But yeah, something certainly got Raleigh up on the screen here right now, and yeah, we're definitely starting to see the snow and mix line continue to press further southward as that freezing line presses further southward. I bet if I were to repeat my analysis, that freezing line would definitely be on the move. That freezing line is what we're going to be watching extremely closely for the icing threat tomorrow. And the other part of it that's kind of nuts is that freezing line is also going to that freezing line is lagging the cold front itself by 12 hours or so. So the cold front is through, but it's going to take a little bit while for the cold advection to really kick in, especially across our neck of the woods in South Carolina. So watching that closely for sure. Now we have a question about the NAM here in Somerville, South Carolina. New NAM runs with I am not buying that. I'm not buying that for Somerville. Almost
No,
a half
because
inch of ice. No.
the QPF in itself is not really extremely high in this storm
No.
to begin with.
No, I'm not buying that accretion. The only way that we're going to get that accretion is both with extremely long residence times of freezing rain. You need that freezing rain to start 6 hours sooner than I suspect it's going to in Somerville. And you would need, if that was really going to verify, and again, as Scotty mentioned, as it made a great point here, we would need more QPF or we would just need more rain, more liquid content.
Precipitation. Yeah.
More precipitation. Right.
More
Right.
precipitation.
That's a QPF. It means quantitative precipitation forecast. So just a little nerdiness there to go there.
Jared,
so yep, go.
We had a good question. Dottie, you may have to scroll it down and pop it up on screen, but she had a good question. Dottie Baker.
Dottie Baker. Yeah, all right, here we go. Yeah, I think is this the one?
Yeah. So she's saying she currently works in Selma and lives in Newton Grove. So this is near the Smithfield area. Trying to determine what the weather is going to be like. Best time to head home. Any advice? I'm not sure when you would be heading home, but if you're heading home tonight, temperatures are beginning to really creep down into that freezing level. So if you're not home yet, you need to make plans. But if you're talking about tomorrow, it looks like the precipitation starts late morning, early afternoon, and kind of really just remains in the area through the evening, early to mid evening hours. So not sure what time you're leaving work or whatever, but if you can get home anytime soon, get home now. But if you're working tomorrow morning, if you can get home by at least 1-2 o'clock tomorrow, you should be pretty safe. The road shouldn't be too bad at that point. But do know temperatures are going to be right around freezing or below. So whatever is wet out there could be some icy spots.
Yeah, and I've got the regional radar up here right now, and you can see, again, and keep in mind that this mask is an estimate. This is based on model data and everything like that. It may not be 100% on, but it does a decent job. It looks like we're starting to see some ice pellets begin to work their way in here, very close to Smithfield, 36 in Smithfield right now. You see a little bit of this mixing. You're seeing that snow band now, that snow area really start to come through Raleigh. As we speak. So certainly something that we're going to want to watch for you closely this evening. And certainly, your travel is going to become a little bit tougher as the night goes on. Now, I guess the good news is that right now we don't see any signs of any freezing rain. We don't have any observations of freezing rain. Again, we have most of these temperatures that are above freezing at the surface right now. So that will not last, though. Maybe a couple more hours at most.
I saw a question about Joseph was wanting to know about the low pressure and can it cause the front to back up.
Mhm.
Basically, that low pressure is going to be riding along the stalled cold front, and so the low pressure is kind of like the storm system. Low pressure spins counterclockwise, bringing moisture in. Excuse me. And so it depends on where that low pressure is. It depends on how far that precipitation shield shifts. Or it's kind of reminds you of like, here's a center line. You know, anytime that center line is right here, but it shifts one way or the other, that perimeter is going to shift as well. And that perimeter is your precipitation. So the further that low pressure tracks towards the coast, the further that shield of precipitation moves westward into the more cold air. Also, if that low pressure tracks closer to the coast, it's going to bring in warmer air from the warmer ocean
Mhm.
and really kill the ice threat along the coast and kind of push that ice threat further to the west as well. So hopefully that kind of helps you understand the importance. The importance of this storm all relies on that low pressure. If we're just being honest, it is the driver of this storm. I mean, that's and the low pressure is not here yet, so that's why it's still wishy-washy.
And the ensembles are not, and again we use ensembles of model data to try and understand, where the probabilities are. Really, you have to play this with probabilities, and the ensembles have been still, the spread has been, it has been quite significant at times, and so that's certainly something that complicates this forecast for sure. Which is one reason why we're going to communicate to you tonight that the thing that's most likely to happen, but also kind of mixing in a little bit of a reasonable worst case scenario. We want you to be ready for that reasonable worst case scenario. If we think that you're in an icing zone, such as Wilmington here, Mr. Lasagna, what about Wilmington? Will we get at least a little bit of snowfall? Not looking good. Not looking good. And I'll
You
say
may get some novelty flakes at the end of it, but if
maybe,
you're talking
yeah.
about accumulating snow, no.
No way, and you're much more likely to see icing in that area. So again, we're going to urge anybody that is under an ice storm warning tonight, especially, get ready for power outages, folks. Get ready for the potential for significant disruptions heading into the next few days, because it's and keep in mind too that behind this it's going to be frigid. I mean, it's going to be absolutely frigid behind this, especially where ice and snow are hanging around a little bit. We're looking at, we were looking at some spots in North Carolina. Some of the models are printing out lows in the teens in northern North Carolina there. Obviously not going to get that cold in Wilmington, thank goodness. But this could have real impacts, especially if you are, if you lose power and you lose power for any decent duration. This could be problematic for you. So we certainly want people to be getting ready for that possibility, not to be scaremongers or scare you or any, or try and freak you out by any stretch of the imagination. We just want you to be prepared. That's what it comes down to ultimately. So, any snowstorms being picked up after the storm tomorrow? Let us get back to you on that.
I've had that question asked me
Signals.
today too, and I'm like, let's get through this first. I will say this, Jared, this is the only surface we'll scratch on this. If we're going to get something, it needs to hurry, because it looks like as we go into February, we're going to get back into that southeast ridge building, and we're going to get more into a more warmer temperature profile. So if you want to see a winter storm, in my opinion, you better hope the next 11 days of January produces it, because it looks like as we get into early February, we're going to get back into maybe not December warmth, but we're going to get into a more mild pattern for February.
Yeah, absolutely. Dottie says that normally get off at 5 a.m., but my employer has left it up to my discretion. That's a good thing. I would say, you've maybe got a little bit of time, but I would be starting to, I'd be watching to your northwest closely, and as those temperatures continue to fall, that might be something that you think about. But again, I think the bulk of the icing is tomorrow. We have, we have we have some forecasts showing snow in Fort Mill, and that maybe a little bit. You very well could see a little bit of snow in Fort Mill. I certainly wouldn't rule that out at all. In fact, that's forecasted to have a dusting up in Fort Mill. A good bit of South Carolina is going to see a little bit of snow. It's not going to stick very long, if it sticks at all. And and it's going to be kind of here today, gone tomorrow, kind of thing. But I mean, there's certainly in interior South Carolina, especially towards the tail end of this, you can certainly see some flakes. But again, as Scotty mentioned too, cold chasing moisture is not great for this sort of thing, and we're going to have dry air really punching south at this point. So,
Yeah.
do you think that there will be anything in Spartanburg to cause schools to close next week? I don't know. I've seen your COVID cases. That doesn't look so good, but I don't know. I can't be sure about any winter weather right now beyond that. We'll have to take a look at it. There's
I want to speak onto that. Our school system here in Burke County and a lot of the foothills, they're out tomorrow too. It's a remote learning day. They've been out all of this week from the snow that we had on Sunday. Because I still got like 3-4 inches of snow on the ground here at my house. So a lot of it's not melted, but I also think school systems have played this week as a good week because, as Jared was talking about, COVID cases are really high in schools right now. So I think it was a good week to just have, all right, we've got snow. Let's just kind of take this week out of the classroom and do it virtually and then get back to it on Monday. So I think it's a little bit of both, honestly.
Mother Nature may be doing us a favor on this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So it's something interesting there for sure. We have questions around, this is a good one. Sumter, Clarendon, looking for tomorrow and Saturday morning, about 10 minutes from I-95 area, wondering for my work commute and possible power outages. Probably going to be okay. I'm just going to take another peek real quick at the data we've got. And I at the same time, I'm peeking over at the Weather Service chat, and there's the NAM model is certainly getting a lot of eyes right now, and I'm going to leave it at that. But
you had me curious, so now I'm checking out the chat.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be an interesting. Again, this is just a nasty setup. But let me get the high res rapid refresh out again real quick, and I'm going to move over to the 0Z run. And I apologize, Arian James. I am on my way to getting a look at that right now, and as I take a look, they're around 7 a.m. or so. Tomorrow morning, I mean, again, 7 a.m. tomorrow, if I could get it to load. Of course, nothing wants to load when I want it to load, right? Isn't that how this is supposed to work, technology? All right, well, let's see. Yeah, it looks like all rain tomorrow morning. And then I would say that your best risk of freezing rain begins maybe around noontime or so. And again, if the high res rapid refresh has anything to say about it, it may not even be until 4 o'clock. So
a little breaking news here that if you live in the Charlotte area, you'll see Charlotte Airport officially reporting snow. So today will go down as a snow day in Charlotte.
Congratulations, Charlotte.
So Charlotte will get a snow day now that the airport's observed that. So it's funny. Everybody's always asking, it never snows in Charlotte. Well, we can say it snowed Sunday, but it also snowed today in Charlotte. So.
Yeah, no doubt. That's funny. So yeah, it's a snow day in Charlotte. Congratulations. Yeah. So anyway, Arian James, again, I think that, Saturday morning is going to be dicey. Friday, tomorrow, until about noon or so, I think you're going to be okay. You guys need sleep. Yes, we do. After this week and last week, yeah, no doubt. My doctor is going to be very upset with me. Snow for Greensboro. Yes, you're right on the edge, but yeah, I think you're going to see a little bit. Yeah,
I think you could get up to an inch. Maybe if you're lucky, you might see a little bit more than that. But I think up to. So don't hold me to it if you don't get up a solid inch, but up to an inch is possible there in Greensboro. That's an area we need to watch because that's kind of one of those boom bust potentials. You can see a little bit more, or you may not see.
Right on the line. Right on the line. Goose Creek area, as we get into the last few minutes of the show here. Thank you all again for your questions. We're going to try and bang out a bunch of these, and then we're going to sign off at about 10 o'clock. So I'm going to kind of do a little lightning round as we've been doing for the last few nights. Goose Creek area. Freezing rain certainly appears possible again, looking right now like a glaze up to a tenth of an inch of freezing rain, generally probably starting in the 1 to 3 p.m. time frame there. Your winter weather advisory goes into effect at 1 o'clock there, goes into effect at 3 o'clock for the rest of the metro area. So Berkeley County is getting in on that a little bit early, primarily to account for northern Berkeley. So we're keeping an eye on that closely. Let's see. Scotty, we may want to go over to net as well and just check this. We had a question come in. I think we had a question come in. How's it looking from Rome, Georgia to Somerville early afternoon tomorrow? Hubby's the truck driver coming home. I think you're probably going to be reasonably okay. Again, we'll need to see when the onset of the freezing rain is. It's cutting it close. No doubt about that. It's cutting it close. And coming out of Rome, looks like you're gonna be out of the precip though. So I think you're gonna be okay for a good bit of that journey. But again, you certainly will run into if you're coming, depending on how you're coming in. I'd recommend 75 I'd almost recommend 75 to 20, and then use 78 to get back to Somerville, and not try to take I-20 to 26, because that is you're going to get into a little bit more of a winter weather concern there at that time. So you may want to make some adjustments to the route. I know, and I don't know how, and again, that's what I would do in a car. I am the furthest thing there is from a a commercial driver. So, so there you go. Sanford.
That question was on the. I had the net pulled up, but I pulled the screen down. Yep. But that was from the net. So.
Myra, thank you for coming to Facebook. I'm sorry that we didn't see that sooner. We broadcast this far and wide, and we have a chat system here that lets us see certain YouTube and certain Facebook comments. If we may be missing some of your questions, we're going to scour through our social media after this and make sure that we get everything we can answered properly. Sanford, North Carolina.
Sanford. So I had to get my bearings straight. You're right there in the triangle area. Be on the lookout for some icy roads tonight, but tomorrow's concern would be a chance of some sleet and snowfall, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. You might get lucky and get an inch or two if snow's your thing. I say lucky. If snow's your thing, you may get lucky enough to get an inch or two, but watch out for a little bit of snow tomorrow afternoon.
There was a special weather statement in Spartanburg mentioning the possibility of ice forming in areas where sun doesn't hit. However, that's now been taken back. I would caution you and say that special weather statement, there's a fuse on those. They don't keep the special weather statement out forever, but I think, but that is not necessarily a watch, warning, or advisory product. It's just a statement. So I would say that probably has not been withdrawn. And yes, in places where the sun doesn't hit, especially, and again, on the tail end of this storm, there's certainly going to be black ice concerns up and down the Carolinas, as it's going to get very frigid, as we mentioned. So I would not say that it has been taken back. There is a.
Yeah, I think they run for about 8 hours. Those black ice products, and then they'll probably issue one later on tonight. So watch out for another one.
Yeah. I live in Barnwell. Anything you should be aware of this far west? You might see. Barnwell, you're right on the edge there. There's a possibility you could see a few flakes, but right now it looks mostly rain for you in that area. So let's talk. Let's see here. We've got reports of snow in Asheboro. How about Pinehurst?
So Pinehurst, you're in that zone where you could see some snow, sleet tomorrow. Don't be surprised if you see up to an inch or so, maybe a little bit more than that. You're kind of in that Winston-Salem, Greensboro area where you're on that line where you could see a little bit more and maybe not enough, but watch for some snow tomorrow afternoon.
Yep, for sure.
Same for Rayford. I just seen Rayford. Same forecast.
Lake Norman looks
same
like
forecast.
Same forecast. Yep, pretty straightforward. This is probably a good question that we can end the show on. Actually, is what weather apps are the best and most accurate? anything that has a human behind it is going to be more accurate than most computer forecasts, especially in these kinds of scenarios. The human element is unmatched. I mean, computer models are guidance. They help us understand what could happen. But I saw somebody tweet a good quote from Jim Gandy, a former meteorologist, legendary meteorologist in Columbia, South Carolina, and since retired. We have a show with him after he retired, and he's like, all models are wrong, but some are useful. And the problem is with a lot of these apps is that they use a model that is probably going to be wrong. They set an expectation of they set a bit of an expectation of precision where there is none. So I'm going to encourage you to use apps like your local news station. Your local news station has human-based forecasts. Your local meteorologists are plugging that stuff in there.
I can speak for a fact. Good friend, we had Jamie Arnold on last night from WMBF. Jamie and Andrew and I are really good friends, and I know they are physically looking at that app every time it updates. And if there is a number or something there they don't like, they're going in there and adjusting it, because your local meteorologist at your TV station, everybody who's watching tonight, you have 3 or 4 local TV stations, and I'm sure they all have weather apps, and all of those meteorologists are able to override the system and put in their forecast. And, that's who you need to go to. A lot of these apps, your stock apps, they just run of the mill update, no human input. And that's why you see such variation. So I'm going to echo what Jared said, and find your favorite TV station and go load that app, because that's the best one.
There may be some audio issues on Facebook. But we'll, but again, we're going to wrap here in a second, but, we'll have a replay there. We'll have a replay on YouTube, so you guys can get everything there. So,
I got one question here. How about Surfside Murrells Inlet in Horry County? You could see precipitation start as early as around lunchtime tomorrow. Maybe is a little bit of rain, but changing as of right now to more of a freezing rain. And then by the freezing rain, you can see up to several hours of freezing rain in Horry County, especially there in Murrells Inlet, Surfside. So as we get into early Saturday morning, as the front moves through, Jared talks about this earlier, may have just enough cold air to mix in that you could see a few sleet pellets or snowflakes, but those will just be novelty. The main threat in Horry County is the freezing rain threat.
Yep, absolutely. Last question: are we going to be live tomorrow, and what time? So yes, we're talking through our plans right now as far as what our coverage is going to look like. We do absolutely anticipate being here at 7 p.m. tomorrow, when we're starting to see some of the real freezing rain begin to kick in. We're working on a quick update, as conditions warrant, possibly as soon as noon. Don't hold me to that yet. We're still working out details on how that's all going to work out. But yes, we'll be around throughout the day tomorrow. We're going to do some quick hit updates and maybe even, just some quick Q&A sessions and really get your reports too. That is always going to be super useful. So keep it posted here to the Carolina Weather Group. Wherever you're watching us. Oh, Scotty, go.
MPing.
MPing.
Download it. Let us know what you're seeing. That's the best app to use for us. We're able to see what's going on in your street. So
yep, absolutely. So yeah, MPing app, critical. You guys have proven that you're good at this. We're going to need you again. We're going to need you again over the next couple of days. So, with all that in mind, we'll be with you tomorrow. Be sure to hit like on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, turn on our notifications so you know when we go live. We have the 24/7 Carolina Weather Net. This is going to replay on the Carolina Weather Net here before too long. So you can catch our replays there. You can catch our replays on YouTube. I mean, really, we're pretty much everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Search Carolina Weather Group. We are there. So on that note, I think I'm going to go ahead and close us out. Scotty, any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, just be careful tonight as temperatures drop. It could be some icy conditions tomorrow morning. And let us know what you see tomorrow. Tweet us, Facebook us. We'd love to see that verification.
Awesome. All right. Well, for Scotty Powell in Morganton, I'm Jared Smith in Charleston. Thank you all for watching so much, and we will see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for our schedule, and more to come on that front. So again, be safe, stay warm, and talk to you soon.